The podcasting technology of NORML is made possible by Red Aphid Interactive Media. More information at redaphid.com. And distributed by the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws in Washington, D.C. This is your daily audio stash, the growing truth about cannabis. Welcome to the most popular audio podcast regarding marijuana in all of America and all the world, featuring interviews with scientists, politicians, doctors, prohibition policy activists, regular cannabis consumers, musicians, and NORML staff and NORML's board of directors, along with music and comedy no other podcast can offer. You can always find out more about the show at our website, NORMLAudiostash.com. We're ending marijuana prohibition with education, one listener at a time. Welcome back to the Audio Stash. Today it's Friday, May 18th. I'm your host, Chris Goldstein. Take a moment to join us at NORML to end marijuana prohibition in America. Just visit NORML.org to get involved today. We have a great show for you here this Friday. We're going to have our CelebStoner.com update with Steve Bloom, our Friday News Roundup co-written by Paul Armentano, NORML Senior Policy Analyst, as well as some great weekend music. Let's open up the stash right away with our Friday News Roundup. As always, this week was filled with interesting stories about marijuana happening around the country. Let's start out with this one. It's made an incredible amount of internet buzz. It all started when Dearborn, Michigan police officer Edward Sanchez and his wife Stacy stole some marijuana from the evidence locker at the Dearborn Police Department. Instead of smoking it, the pair decided to bake some marijuana brownies with their pilfered quarter ounce. And as many chocolatey-covered first-time marijuana bakers do, they ate way too many brownies. In fact, they ate the whole pan. As listeners to the Audio Stash know, eating marijuana is not particularly dangerous to one's health. No one has ever died of a marijuana overdose. However, the sensation can be a bit stronger than some folks like. When the brownies began to kick in, Officer Sanchez and his wife began to feel the pot's full effects. They began to, and this is a non-technical term here, completely freak out. One of the surprising parts of the case is what Edward and Stacy did next. They called 911 and asked for an ambulance. Local media acquired the 911 call, which is posted up on YouTube. The 911 dispatcher seems to have a much greater level of education in regards to marijuana and its effects than Officer Sanchez. Let's listen into some highlights of this 911 call. Again, this is Edward Sanchez of the Dearborn, Michigan Police.
Dearborn Heights Emergency?
Yeah, can you please send rescue? I think I'm having an overdose, and so is my wife.
Okay, you and your wife?
Yes.
Overdose of what?
Marijuana.
Okay.
Can you please send rescue?
Okay, how old are you?
I'm 29 years old, and my wife is 26. Please come.
26?
Yes, please.
Have you guys been drinking also?
What?
Have you guys been drinking today too?
No, that's it.
No, and is there any weapons in the house?
No. Please come.
Okay, we're on our way. Do you guys have fever or anything?
No, I think we're dying.
Okay, how much did you guys have?
I don't know. We made brownies, and I think we're dead. I really do.
Okay, how much did you put in the brownies?
I don't know.
Was it a bag? Who made the brownies?
My wife and I did. Time is going by really, 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 really slow.
Okay, well, I'm on the phone with you, and do you know how much of it you bought and put in the brownies?
Pardon?
How much did you buy?
Just please send rescue.
They're on the way, but I'm trying to figure out how much you bought and put into the brownies, sir.
Probably like a quarter ounce total.
A quarter ounce total into the brownies? Did you guys eat all the brownies?
Yeah, we did.
Okay. And you ate all of them. But how many? Was it a big batch, a little batch?
It was a quarter ounce.
Okay, but brownie-wise, how many pieces do you guys think you guys had?
I don't know. I probably had like a small chunk. Please come. What time is it?
It's 9:37. When did you guys last eat the brownies?
Probably like an hour and a half ago.
Okay, and is she Stacy Sanchez?
Yes.
What's your name?
My name is Edward.
You're Edward Sanchez? Okay. Are you guys on any sort of prescription pills? Do you guys take any sort of other medication?
No, I don't. My wife takes Vicodin, though.
And did she take any today?
No, I don't think so. Are you coming?
Yeah, they're on the way. They've been in your mouth for 2 minutes. It's now 9:38.
Okay.
And she takes about how many? 5 a day?
What's that?
How many does she take a day?
She takes like, I don't know, like 6.
6 a day?
Like 5 a day. I don't know. We got into a car accident in Dearborn Heights last year.
Okay. And you don't know how many she's taken today?
No.
Are there any weapons in the house?
You already asked me that.
And what'd you say?
Yeah. Well, no, there is.
Where is it?
It's in my closet.
Is that in the back bedroom?
Yeah, in the front bedroom.
In the front bedroom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where's FD at right now?
They're on the way, sir. Do you guys do this on a regular basis?
No, this is the first time we've ever done it.
Again, that's a 911 call placed by Edward Sanchez, a police officer in Dearborn, Michigan, after eating a pan of marijuana brownies. The truly amazing part of this whole case is that despite admitting to stealing the marijuana from the police department, then consuming it, neither Edward nor Stacy Sanchez have had any criminal charges filed against them, and Sanchez remains on the Dearborn force. Nevertheless, there's no doubt that the five-fingered officer learned a valuable lesson. When you make some pot brownies, never ever eat the whole pan. Across the pond in the British Isles, where we have seen an increasing amount of false reefer madness rhetoric lately, there was a surprising admittance by an Irish politician. It was the Minister of Finance for the Irish government, Brian Cowan, who admitted to smoking marijuana while he was at law school at the University College of Dublin. Cowan claimed that marijuana use was so prevalent that joints were openly smoked and passed around at the college bar. Cowan made his comments in an interview with the British rock magazine Hot Press. He even compared himself to Bill Clinton and pointed out that, quote, unlike President Clinton, I did inhale, close quote. Cowan's honesty elicited a mixed reaction, with his governmental peers joking about it at press conferences and dismissing any long-term dangers. Then there were the anti-drug groups condemning him. Too bad Bill Clinton was a Rhodes Scholar. Looks like he would have had much more fun attending law school in the land of green.
Well, my great-great-greats came from a great land, for there I met a lady and I thought I'd win her hand, but a spirited had got her. I was jealous, understand, of the green man, green man.
Back here in the U.S., publisher, cultivator, and activist Ed Rosenthal's trial is underway in a California courtroom before the same judge who allowed him to serve a single day in jail for a sentence upon his last conviction there. And Rosenthal will not face any jail time if convicted of new charges regarding his alleged failure to disclose income from cannabis cultivation. In April of last year, a court of appeals overturned his cultivation convictions based on juror misconduct, which opened up the possibility of the ganja guru facing a retrial. The trial is expected to last a few weeks. We expect Ed to be back here on the Audio Stash at the conclusion of the trial. Covering state legislative reform this week here on the Audio Stash, and there is some breaking news today from Vermont. Senate Bill 7 An act to improve the state's 2-year-old medical marijuana law has received final approval by the state legislature and now awaits action by Governor Jim Douglas. NORML is encouraging listeners to contact the governor's office and urge him to sign SB 7 into law. You can do so by visiting the NORML Take Action Center, and we have links at normalaudiostash.com. Here's NORML Senior Policy Analyst Paul Armentano commenting on Vermont.
Well, as many folks know, Vermont actually has a medical marijuana law on the books. In fact, it is arguably the strictest medical marijuana law, or the most restrictive medical marijuana law in existence. And while that may appeal to some in law enforcement, in practice it really hasn't helped anybody. The latest numbers I saw from Vermont show that under 30 patients in the entire state are authorized to use marijuana under the state's law. And we know that there are far more than 30 individuals in Vermont who would benefit from the medical use of marijuana and deserve legal protection. So to make that a reality, reformers in Vermont proposed amending the state law so that physicians would be able to recommend the use of marijuana for several additional disease conditions than the limited number that are already allowed under state law. And, in fact, the proposed amended version of this law would also raise the level or the amount of marijuana that patients are able to legally possess. And we think these are both common sense changes that will make the law work more efficiently and that will expand the number of seriously ill Vermonters that can be helped by this law. So we certainly think it's a good thing.
That was NORML Senior Policy Analyst Paul Armentano. Finally today, in Hawaii, some local elected officials there are taking a strong stance against marijuana prohibition. City councilmen on Hawaii's Big Island have indicated that they may reject federal grants earmarked for marijuana eradication. The government grants, totaling $582,000, are used mainly to pay for helicopter searches to search for clandestine marijuana patches. In 2000, the council members rejected about $265,000 in federal funds for marijuana eradication, but have accepted full funding every year since. Many thanks to NORML's Senior Policy Analyst Paul Armentano for contributing every day to Daily News and helping us out every Friday with our Friday News Roundup. Stay tuned today for some celebrity stoner news. We'll have Steve Bloom's CelebStoner.com update, where we'll hear about Ricky Williams, Bud Bundy from Married with Children, and Tony Soprano, all here today on NORML's Daily Audio Stash.
Your daughter by looking at her mother, but you can't judge a book by looking at the cover. Come on, can't you see? Well, baby, you misjudged me. Well, I might look like a farmer, but I'm a lover. Can't judge a book by looking at the cover. Come on.
Next up today, it's time to check in on the celebrities who enjoy a toke out there with Steve Bloom of CelebStoner.com.
I want to be famous. I want to wear minks and satins and pearls.
Each Friday, we get the chance to speak with the man with his finger on the pulse of famous folks who enjoy a toke, Steve Bloom. He reports it all on the website, CelebStoner.com. Steve, welcome back to the Audio Stash today.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Doing great here, man. Very happy it's Friday again, let me tell you. It was a very busy week, though, this week in celebrity stoner news out there. Just a ton of fun stories from Ricky Williams, Tony Soprano, and to Bud Bundy. Hard to know where to start here this week, but Steve, let's start with Ricky Williams. This has turned into a very interesting case.
Well, Ricky Williams is the NFL running back who's had basically he's had problems with the drug testing. He's failed 5 drug tests now, all of them for marijuana. This goes back to 2004 when he started flunking his tests, and he was playing for the Miami Dolphins at the time and was an all-pro running back, led the league in running that year, and then he started to flunk his drug tests. He flunked so many that the league suspended him. and he took. Well, actually, the league threatened to suspend him, and then then he decided, rather than being suspended, to retire. He took off for about a year and visited places like Australia and India, and stayed away from football. Nobody really knew quite what he was doing. And then he finally came back, and he had said that he had learned yoga and picked up other Eastern religious practices, but decided he wanted to play again. Started playing again, flunked another drug test, got suspended. This was last year around this time. Went up to Canada and played for the Canadian Football League for the Toronto Argonauts last season. And then just about a month ago came forth to say that he would like to be reinstated to the NFL. He had been suspended for a year, so he was allowed to petition for reinstatement. Said he hadn't smoked marijuana in a couple of years, and then lo and behold, last Friday it was announced that he had flunked another drug test, another one for marijuana back in April. So Ricky, Williams is still smoking marijuana apparently, despite the fact that he told his agent otherwise. It's kind of interesting. His agent, Lee Steinberg, who's a major player in the football representing players, had this comment said that he told me that his interest in Eastern philosophy had overcome his desire for mind-altering substances and had given him another outlet. He's in outstanding shape and hasn't taken a lot of hits for running back. I think he's still at the top of his game. Well, apparently Ricky is still taking hits. And so right now they've postponed dealing with his reinstatement till September, until kind of the smoke clears, and they decide what to do with Ricky Williams. But Williams is, truly the NFL's leading pothead, and the NFL's been having problems with their players lately. A lot of their players with having legal problems. They suspended 2 players recently, one of them Pac-Man Jones. And looks like they may be suspending another player today, who's a player who's just coming out of jail. They are not happy with guys like Ricky Williams and others flaunting the law. And even though, it's apparently clear that a lot of football players smoke marijuana, guys like Ricky are getting busted on the tests, and really what they need is a good drug test solution so that they don't get caught.
I saw a reporter's, sports writer's article up this week on the case, and he pointed out that Ricky Williams is not a stupid guy. I mean, he knows he's being drug tested. Ricky doesn't seem to really care about the issue one way or the other. He's certainly never apologized for smoking pot. So testing positive might be regarded as a statement by Williams on this issue.
Well, he's dancing around like he does on the football field, eluding tacklers, and he's trying to elude, the NFL, who have tackled him numerous times now for his marijuana use. And it's just too bad because Ricky is the type of guy who's a little bit of a free spirit. He used to have dreads, and I don't think he has them now, but he kind of looked this part of like a Rasta type football player, who, by the way, was influenced by his meeting with the Marley family and representatives of the Marleys who lived down in Miami. And Rowan Marley, who's one of these Bob Marley's sons, was played for the University of Miami, so there's like a connection in the family. And I think he decided to sort of go a little bit Rasta, and he thought he could be a running back, smoke a little weed, and enjoy his lifestyle. And the NFL more or less won't tolerate it, and all the sports leagues won't tolerate it. It's just too bad. I mean, it really doesn't. It's not a performance enhancing drug. I mean, these guys are not smoking pot generally, from what I would guess, before they go on the field or before they go on the basketball court. It's something they do afterwards, socially, to unwind after a game, just in general, like most people in life do. They're probably not wake and bakers. They know they have to sort of, go out there and play the game. And, it's arguable that some guys might smoke before and it might enhance their performance, but that's not really, I'm sure, how marijuana is generally used by most players. They'll smoke it afterwards like most people just to unwind. And, it's just too bad that they don't have the right to do it, whereas it's okay, more or less, although now there's more questions around it to drink alcohol after games. I mean, here's the situation of the pitcher, the St. Louis Cardinals pitcher, Josh Hancock, who died recently in a car crash, and, he was drunk at the wheel, when he died. So, not to say that it would have been better if he was smoking pot, but certainly would have been worse, and it's tolerated for you to drink, but it's not to smoke marijuana. So, it's just the usual hypocrisy within the society of what's okay and what's not okay. Until marijuana is legal, we still have to deal with this, alcohol, yes. Marijuana, no, even though we know alcohol's worse for you than marijuana. But that's just the way it is, and a lot of these players, are caught in this bind. Well, I'd also want to clarify that when I say worse than marijuana, I don't think marijuana is bad at all, but just when you look at it, one next to the other, if you just, compare the two, alcohol is going to have much more of a negative effect on you than marijuana.
Righto. Now, the next case this week is that of Bud Bundy. Danny Faustino, the vertically challenged actor who appeared in the long-running comedy Married with Children as Bud Bundy, was arrested this week in Florida with a very small amount of marijuana, 1 gram. Tell us about what happened there.
But he does have a reputation for being a pot smoker. He's contacted High Times and was interviewed in High Times a few years back when he was still riding on the fame of Married with Children. It's been a lot of years since that show's been off the air, and he hasn't really done a whole lot in his career. He's been in movies with marijuana themes, one last year called Puff Puff Pass. But he's really been, he's kind of turned into somewhat of a C-list celebrity, and he was in Florida over the weekend with a woman who he was having actually with his ex-wife, and he was having an argument with her in the middle of the street at 2 a.m. in the morning, and nothing, that's what gets the police involved. Basically, when you're doing something in the public like that, they were stopped, and police were called, and there was a search, and they found 1 gram of marijuana in his pocket. Not sure why he was searched, but nevertheless they did, and I guess he just put himself into this vulnerable situation where they could search him, and that's what they found. So that's really the big news story of yesterday, in the marijuana world as far as celebrity arrests was David Faustino, being stopped in Florida and being caught with 1 gram. It seems so inconsequential, but nevertheless it happened.
And the way those draconian marijuana laws are in Florida, even for 1 gram, Danny could catch a little trouble here.
I'm sure it'll be dropped.
Yeah, who wants to bust a Bundy? Now, next up this week, one of the most popular cable TV series of all time, The Sopranos, is rounding out their run. And in a recent episode, they featured the lead character, Tony Soprano, smoking a joint and enjoying it. So, Steve, what does it mean here when such a broadly popular show presents the main character smoking pot?
Well, let's back up in terms of what happened during this particular episode. Now, The Sopranos is coming to its end. It's in its 7th season, and it's down to 3 episodes to go. And, of course, people are just, waiting to see what's going to happen. And in the episode on Sunday, the character Christopher Moltisanti, played by Michael Imperiale, died in a car crash. And Tony, he was Tony's nephew, and he was kind of a thorn in Tony's side in a lot of ways because Tony had to help him out because he was family, but he was constantly getting into trouble. Had a drug problem, a hard drug problem. Made a movie that upset a lot of the family because it's a little bit, told a little bit too much of the inside story of what goes on within their realm in their gangster world, and had an ex-girlfriend who basically was, kind of caught and told the feds, some of the things that was going on within the family. She ended up getting killed. So, all these years later, it was time for Christopher to so-called get whacked in the show, but it happened, via a car accident. So, throughout the episode, Tony was kind of happy that it was over, that Christopher was out of the way, trying to explain this to people, but nobody really could get it. Everybody's crying, everybody's sad. His wife and Carmela, they're all, breaking up, and it's a terrible thing. And Tony's like, well, not really the worst thing. And so he just had to get away because nobody really understood what was going on in his head. So he goes to Las Vegas on his own on a solo trip, and he looks up an ex-girlfriend of Chris's, who's a stripper, and as Tony, is typical to do, he likes to sort of get involved with girls like that or women like that. And so he has, sex with her, and then she suggests, let's smoke a joint. And he pretty much was like, no. And she's saying, it'll really be mellow. You won't get paranoid. The woman's role, her name was Sonia. And so Tony, kind of looked at her and was lying there and, okay, I'll try it. So he finally, after all these years on The Sopranos, he smokes a joint, and then he just about a minute later, he's got a nice smile on his face and goes, this is some amazing dope. And then he explains clearly, why he hadn't done it before, and he goes, truth is, I always wanted to try that shit, but I always had all the responsibilities. So, not that he doesn't have the responsibilities now, but the show is winding down, so I guess the responsibilities are going to be a lot less after, the show is over. So I guess it was okay. The follow-up to that was that he asked Sonia about doing peyote with Chris, and he had heard stories, and so kind of like he, tipped his, hand that maybe he'd like to try too. Next thing, she's offering him kind of like looked like a smushed up peyote button, and they both took the buttons, and we're getting amorous again, and then he goes running to the bathroom throwing up, which is something that does happen to you when you take peyote, and then they just kind of went off on a trip, and they were just kind of loopy, a little bit, altered, and even the way you were seeing the show was a little fuzzy now, the way they tend to do that when someone's tripping on a TV show or in a movie, and they went down to the floor and did some gambling, and Tony, who had been losing a lot, suddenly won 3 huge roulette spins, and they were so overwhelmed by winning, they just literally both of them collapsed onto the floor of the casino and just laughing hysterically, something that might happen to you when you're really tripping out. And next scene, they're kind of out in the desert because it's in the Las Vegas area, Nevada, and with a stark landscape of red mountains, surrounding them. Tony is just looking out, and he screams at the top of his lungs, "I get it." And it left people wondering, what did Tony really get? Other than he was that what they had been doing was some pretty good stuff. So, why and how, it's not really clear, but it seems as this show is winding down, it was an area that, Tony had never really gone in. A lot of the other people on the show had done drugs. There really wasn't a lot of pot in the show except for the occasional, maybe Christopher smoking pot, or some of the younger people in the show smoking pot at a party scene. Most of the drugs in The Sopranos has a little bit been towards the harder drugs, heroin and cocaine. So this is an interesting point where Tony decided to sort of take a break and enlighten his mind a little bit and try and understand a little bit more as to what's really going on as the show winds down. So, it was an interesting moment to see, the king of The Sopranos, the Godfather, basically smoking a joint.
And, let's talk about Vegas here for a minute, Steve. People vacation there. It's Sin City. People travel there to do things they wouldn't normally do at home. The whole "it stays in Vegas" sort of ad campaign out there. But is marijuana popular in Vegas? Do people see it as a fun thing to do when they're traveling there to the Strip?
It is popular in Vegas, but there's where you expect it to be, tolerated, it's still not 100%. I mean, recently they had a 420 event that was canceled there. Mm-hmm. So, they'll get in your way in Vegas real fast if they're not happy, if you don't play by the rules. But in the last few years, and High Times has, shown this by going to Vegas repeatedly and doing underground, Vegas cups, and, where people come out with their best marijuana, and it's judged by a small, group of people who hear about this thing. It usually is connected to the paraphernalia or boutique show that they have in Vegas, and they do like an underground cannabis cup. So yes, things have opened up in Vegas over the years, but Nevada used to have some of the worst laws against marijuana. So, but even Nevada last year they attempted to pass a tax and regulate bill that didn't go through, but 40+% of the population voted, so it indicates their support. You would think that Nevada would be the place, to be the first state to tax and regulate. It just seems like Nevada's led the way in vice, with gambling and with brothels, so why not marijuana? Again, I don't consider it a vice, but that's the way other people would look at it. So, why not give it a shot? And I do think that's going to happen. I do think that's going to be the big breakthrough of marijuana policy in the U.S. It's going to be the next step. Some state in the U.S. is going to, and they're going to tax and regulate marijuana.
Right on. Well, Steve, I want to thank you again for joining us here for our Friday update from CelebStoner.com.
Hey, thank you very much. I love Normal Audio Stash.
Oh, many thanks, man. Steve Bloom is the man with his finger on the pulse of famous folks who enjoy a toke. He reports on it all at the website CelebStoner.com. Steve joins us each Friday right here on the Audio Stash. We're going to round out our Audio Stash here this Friday with this great summer tune by a great friend of the NORML Foundation. Here's John Nicholson with Grass River. I have links to John and his iTunes page up on our website at NORMLAudioStash.com.
waking me up when I should be asleep. Grass rivers calling me. Most times I wanna do the right thing. I'm still wondering what that is. I'll be working on the next thing long after I'm gone. Grass rivers calling me, taking me back to where I should be. Never knew a river that had run that deep. That grass river's calling me. It's calling me. Tell me something that I should know. Grass rivers calling me. Give me a reason why I should slow. Grass rivers calling me. I don't wanna be the big time. I just wanna let my light shine. It's only worth it to forget my chance to stand alone. Grass rivers calling me, taking me back to where I should be. Never knew a river that had run that deep. That grass river's calling me. Grass rivers calling me, taking me back to where I should be. Never knew a river that had run that deep. That grass river's calling me. It's calling me. Maybe someday I'll settle down. Grass rivers calling me. Plant a little crop outside of town. Grass rivers calling me. Watch it growing tall in the sunshine. Fruit of my labor's gonna be all mine. I'll be hitting it the next time, passing it around, yeah. Grass rivers calling me, taking me back to where I should be. Never knew a river that had run that deep. That grass river calling me. Grass rivers calling me, taking me back to where I should be. Never knew a river that had run that deep. That grass river's calling me, yeah.
That was John Nicholson. He performed that song Grass River out at the NORML conference in 2006. We have links to John's website and to him up on iTunes on our website today at normalaudiostash.com. This has been NORML's Daily Audio Stash, the growing truth about cannabis. Visit our website at normalaudiostash.com. You listen to the Audio Stash. Vote for us at Podcast Alley or other podcast directory services. I'm your host, Chris Goldstein. Thanks for listening today. Everyone have a fun summer weekend out there, and we're back at 4:20 on Monday.
.76% of Americans no longer support arresting and jailing marijuana smokers, and nearly as many support the medical patients having access to medical marijuana. And over 80% of our citizens now believe the war on drugs is an ineffective failure. So the question is, when will the government's misguided war on adult marijuana smokers finally end? When? Simple. When you and your like-minded friends, family, and coworkers get involved with an organization such as the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, also known as NORML. My name is Keith Stropp, and I founded the organization in 1970. Contact us at NORML, toll-free, 888-67-NORML, or by visiting the organization's up-to-date webpage at www.norml.org.